officially introduce the book. That's my copy, but...
I know, it looks like your taxes. There's a lot going on in there. First of all, thank you so much, everybody. I don't know.
You know,
I cried so much writing this book that I'm like, so I don't know if I have any tears left, but just so you know, they're like fighting like hell to get out right now. So thank you so much, everybody.
And I want you to take this in because you talk about it in the book, the fact that you're on TV and radio and you love connecting with people, but you're never in front of them.
No.
And here's your chance. Like, they showed up for you.
Yeah.
This is a moment. Take it all in. Take. You know, what's your name? Say hi to Michelle.
Hi, Michelle. How are you?
Is it overwhelming?
It is overwhelming. I'll tell you, when I sat down and I wrote this, and the only thing I kept saying to myself over and over and over again is, I just hope it helps one person. I hope one person sees a tiny little bit of them in my story, and it matters. And that was my only dream. And over the last 24 hours when the book came out and people binged it like it was Stranger Things. And I got messages all night long. I was getting people writing me at 3 a.m. this morning being like, I just finished it. And I wanted one, you know, I wanted one person. And the 2 years of writing this and being just absent from a lot of my life and my family and everything else, I wanted one. And it looks like I got a shit ton more.
Woo! So can we go back to the fact that the last chapter was so special?
Right.
You're getting married. It's even hard for me to say. You're having a wedding. You have to go to a wedding.
I know. So I will say this, and I know that I said it like in the video, and I've said it before, but that is where I started the book, because I prefer telling stories by starting at the end first. It's just the way I like telling stories. And the first line I wrote when I sat down to write the book was, when you find the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with, you're also choosing the person who's going to tell your stories when you're gone. And if you're lucky, you'll find somebody who only sees the best in you. And that's the first line I wrote, and then I knew the proposal was going to be after that. And as soon as I wrote that, I went back to the beginning, and then I started to write everything else. But I needed to know where I was going, and I needed to know where it was going to end, and I knew it was going to end with a proposal.
Can we talk about the proposal?
Please.
Because guys, if you're going to be proposing, like, take notes, because that video.
And I didn't mean.
No, listen, you made every guy look bad. Sam, my husband, doesn't look good either now. But that moment when Catherine is reading those lines of the last chapter, I mean, I need to know how you were feeling. I know it's emotional, but were you overwhelmed, or were you scared she was going to say no?
No.
Like, did you think about that?
No, I was not scared. By the way, that's Catherine right there.
Catherine?
I was not scared she was going to say no. But you have to understand that this was a secret that I had for 2 years, right? And so it was so long, and everybody, like me and my agent Rick and Tim, my editor, and Amy, the publisher, like, everybody was like, I was like, you don't understand, like, this is the secret. And when I sold the book, I sold it, like I said, without that final chapter, and they sort of got that at the end. Which made it special for me because the book was sort of worth it even without the big giant proposal. Thank you. And then so I was sitting there, and it was the day, and I was just like so overwhelmed because nobody blew the secret, right? Nobody blew the secret. But I will say this. The book in the video that you see was a book that I actually had to manufacture, because books didn't exist, so I made it, right? So the publisher sent me a cover of the book, and then they sent me the pages from that final chapter, just as loose pages, but formatted perfectly. And they sent them to the house, and I was at work. I was doing ET Canada with Sangita that day. And they sent them, and Catherine has never once opened my mail. Never once opened my mail, and I'm sitting at work on set of ET Canada Live, and Catherine sends me a picture of the pages with the proposal face up. And I was like, on. It was, and this was the Friday. I was proposing on the Sunday. So it had been 2 years, and it was just loose pages. And then I raced home, and I walked into her office, and I looked at her, and the only thing I was looking for was to see whether she'd been crying or not. And she looked back at me, and I'm looking like, you have not been crying. And she's like, no. And then so I gave her a kiss, and I'm like, hey, cool. And then I grabbed everything off the counter, and I just threw it in the truck, and it never made its way out of there again. So she almost ruined it 2 days before it happened.
What? So you didn't read it?
No, she didn't. No, but she sent me a picture, literally, of her hand flipping through them, like it was like a GIF, right? Yeah. Yeah. She's like, I thought it was a font test.
And for that moment to happen, you also got a tattoo.
I did. Yeah. Oh, I don't think I've actually shown anybody this before.
It's beautiful.
So I got this, which is the Catherine's Wildflowers from the video, and it reads everything that matters, everything that shines. And she also didn't know that I was getting that too, so that was a secret as well.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
The whole thing was beautiful. Congratulations to the both of you. Catherine is one of my besties, and I absolutely love her, and she's so special, and you're so lucky, Roz. Yes. Let's talk about the book, because I want to talk about the cover and this particular photo.
Yep.
Why this photo?
One, Catherine took it. And two, it's interesting because I had a bunch of different versions of this cover. And I had some where the font was like up here, and I had them all laid out on the table. And I would walk into the house, and I was designing the cover as I was writing the book, and I was just being like so vulnerable and at a point where I was super overwhelmed. And I know, like, the dream of an author or any sort of entertainer is to have your face on something. But the more I got into this, the more anxiety I started to feel. And then I actually had a conversation with the publisher where I insisted that my eyes be covered, because I couldn't look at the pictures that were on the table. It was just too overwhelming for me. And so I was like, cover my eyes and then I'm good. Almost like a censor bar across my face. And then that to me was what I was most comfortable with. I wanted to cover more and they wouldn't let me.
It's a beautiful photo, and it's also showing your emotions too. Like you could see so much. It could be a meme.
Thank you.
Right? It's so well done. Now, when I started reading this book, after reading the last chapter, I think I got to page 62, and you checked in with me, and you said, what do you think? And I go, I have to stop, because I had to take it all in. For you to go back, as an author, to those moments in your life, there are moments. And was there a point where you learned something new about yourself when you went back to those moments?
Yeah, I mean, my God, I learned a lot about myself, and it was interesting because the stuff that hurt the most was actually the easiest to write. Because these were stories and these were details that had been put away for so long, and I hadn't told anyone. So literally I just unpacked everything and just put it in the book. And it was actually the easier parts to write were the parts that hurt the most. I mean, I was torturing myself. Like, I was staying up way too late and writing too many hours a day. But I just, like, I couldn't stop. And there's a chapter in the book called Goodnight Roadrunner, which is the, it's like a really, like, that's the chapter that will, like, my God, like, if you're going to get hollowed out, that's the chapter that's going to hollow you out. And when I wrote that, I was missing a piece of that chapter. I was missing something about my dad. And the girls were at the cottage at the time, and I was driving, and I was on the 401, and I had about 45 minutes to go. And I found that piece. I just thought of the one thing that would tie everything together in that chapter, and I started bawling on the 401. And I cried for 45 minutes. And then I got to the cottage, and Catherine and Roxy were there, and I walked in, and I was like, crying. And I was like, listen, I'm fine. I just need my computer. And then I sat there, and I wrote it. And that's when I wrote it. And it was interesting because all the stuff with my dad, the way that the scheduling worked and the edit schedule was, so I wrote all the stuff with my dad last summer over Father's Day weekend. And then the way that the schedule worked again was I edited all those parts of it over this year's Father's Day weekend. And then, so I finished that. I was sitting on the couch, like bawling my eyes out already. And then I went in, and Catherine and Roxy had set up this amazing Father's Day thing for me. And Roxy gave me this little bracelet that reads Pops on it, which I love a lot. And then I just started crying, and they were like, "We got tears." And I was like, "Okay, cool." But no, it was, I learned that it's okay. And I cry all the time. And if I don't cry every day, I almost cry every day. And I had gone so long, so many moments in my life where I didn't cry. And I had no memory of crying, but the one thing I did have was I remembered every single time I should have cried but didn't. And then I realized that was a problem. And then everything just sort of fell in line, and now I love crying. I love it. I cried, people sending me DMs. I cried so much yesterday reading people's DMs because people are just so beautiful. And
it's liberating, isn't it?
It is. It's liberating. It really is. And, you know, just sort of not being afraid to fail. That's my other thing, is that I could have wrote this and it could have been a disaster. And you know what? I would have been cool.
You would have been cool with that?
Yep.
And I texted you right after Roadrunner, just that word.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell you, but after that, I called my dad. And
did you? Good.
I did. I talked to my dad for an hour. Like, my dad's not doing well right now, but I think that's what a lot of people are going to get out of this book, is that making sure you have that connection with your parents, your family, and taking the time to do that. And there was a point in the book where you talk about your dad buying gifts for his future grandkids. Yeah. And that killed me. Yeah. And I almost feel like this book is a gift from your dad to Roxy.
I agree. It's when my dad died, I was in my 20s, and at that time, there was, not that he would have been on Instagram, but there was no sort of permanent legacy, right? And so with my dad, he sort of, all of him died when he died, and his stories and everything else, and there's not much sort of permanent record other than some photos and some photo albums. And to me, I found that crushing. And so a lot of this for me was like, I wrote this, I wrote the thing that I wish my dad wrote for me, right? Yeah. And I wrote it for my kid. If she ever has questions, all the answers are in there, 18 plus. But very 18 plus. But I wanted to sort of tell his stories because their legacy matters. And I think that that's one of the things that I came out of this with, and that is, your legacy matters, his legacy matters. But the one thing you can't do that we're all so used to doing is you can't filter the truth, right? And that's the one thing I promised myself I will never do ever again, is I will never filter the truth.
What did your brother think of the book?
He's here somewhere. He's right there. He loves it. He loves it. Of course he does.
What was
it's
his
the greatest
first
thing
reaction?
he's ever read. It's the greatest. He said it was the greatest thing he's ever read.
What was his reaction? What was the first thing he said to you after reading the book?
I don't think we said much. I think we hugged. Right? We didn't actually say. We didn't actually say much. We hugged, and it's funny because his chapter that I dedicated to the brother I love so much is simply called Roz's Brother. And that is, it's so funny, that is the one chapter that so many people have written me about, is the chapter on that. And that is the one chapter when I was writing this that I didn't care what anyone thought, because I was writing that specifically for one person, and that was my brother. And so that was the one place where I wasn't trying to learn anything, I wasn't trying to teach anything, I wasn't trying to do anything. This was something from me to him, and it's the one time I didn't care, and it's the one chapter that people have mentioned the most to me.
You know what I think you care about the most?
Yeah.
Is the turkey recipe.
Right.
Because you go into details.
I do. And
every little detail. Now I know how to make turkey.
Right. That turkey recipe was in the book and out of the book and in the book and out of the book and in the book and out of the book. And I kept saying, I was just like, this is so stupid. It's like 2 pages on like 15 different ways on how to cook a turkey. And I would just like delete. And I was like, ugh. And then I was like, no, I gotta put that back in there. And then I would delete it again. And then by the end of it, I just landed on in the book. And so
but it's important, right?
It is important. Because I'll tell you, turkey for like that whole thing, it's about Christmas dinner, because that was always my dad's favorite day of the year. And my ma, who always made sure that it was super special, and she was a fantastic cook. And now, because she spent so many years in the kitchen just missing out on all the fun, now I'm the one that cooks turkey. And so it's like this thing for me, right? Like I wanted to sort of do it for me, because turkey dinner really is never about the turkey. It's about the family and the goofing and the everything else. And so then I decided, okay, I'm going to keep the recipes in there because it's not about turkey. It's just about so much more. And if somebody wants to read this and learn it and then be that person for their family, then go for it. But yes, there's like 3 pages on how to cook a freaking turkey in my book.
It just goes on and on. Yeah. Like, this is important. Turkey's important.
I'm so sorry. If you bring me your book, I'll pull those pages out for you.
No, that's good. And you talk about, I guess it's called dinner confession. You would be at the table and you would talk with your family about everything.
Yep.
You even released that.
Yeah, I did. My kid is here singing.
Hiding. Yes. But you did that. Do you do that now?
No, yeah, we did. Yeah, and I love, like, that sort of moment at night when we're all eating. Like, I love cooking. I say in the book, that you have to have something in your day that makes it all worth it. Otherwise, what the hell did you just do? Right. You're going to go and you're going to sell your time for money and sell it to people that you don't particularly like, and it's going to stress you out, and you're going to want to do nothing. And if you don't have something in your day that makes all that worth it, then what the hell did you do? And for me, cooking is that thing. Right, and so I will make 3 different dinners for me, Catherine and Roxy, and no problem. I will just, sure, you want this, I want this, well, I'll just make it. So that sort of dinner time for me is the thing that makes it all worth it. Yeah. Right.
Now, you didn't tell your mom you were writing the book.
I did not. I told my mom 3 days before I announced it, which was in April.
What was the reasoning behind that?
I didn't. Geez, that's a tough one. I needed to be locked away when I wrote this. And I also didn't want her to worry, right? I didn't, and I also didn't want, I didn't want influence. But it's not that I didn't want influence in a bad way. I didn't want her to feel that she was deliberately left out, even though I left her out of it. So I thought it would hurt less if I didn't tell her I was writing it. Do you know what I mean? And just because I wanted for it to be a surprise, and because I know that my mom has always said, my whole life my mom said that she wanted to write a book, and she wanted to tell her story, and she wanted to tell my dad's story. And so this for me was almost a gift to her, which I said to her in the book that I knew she always wanted to do this. I don't know if she ever will, and if she does, it's going to be amazing. But up to this point, she hadn't, and so I wanted to do it for her. So I didn't tell her because I wanted this to sort of be almost a gift for her, right?
You also talk in the book about the fact that your dad would drive you to see your girlfriends.
Right.
And then you would do things.
Yeah.
And then get back in the car.
Yeah.
Did your mom know about this?
Yeah.
So, she's not learning this for the first time. She's known.
Oh, does my mom?
I was like, she's gonna read this, Roz.
No. My dad would smoke cigarettes and read the paper, and my mom would be like, "What'd you do?"
Oh,
yeah.
So mom, you knew all that. I was like, okay. I was like, how was?
My mom knew.
She knew.
She knew. Yeah.
He's a good boy.
No. Yeah.
There's so many lessons in this book. What ultimately do you want people to get out of this book once they sit down with it?
That you are not your mistakes, and you are not your guilt, and you are not your failures, and that, I say after the first line in the book is that it never gets better, but it does get easier. And I think that applies to a lot of things in life. And I think that we get to points in our lives where we pretend that it's fine. We pretend that everything's fine. Mm-hmm. And once you pretend that everything is fine enough times, what you wind up doing is you wind up building armor, and you then start taking pride in the fact that people can't see what's really going on. When you're hurt, when you feel broken, but you go to work and nobody notices, you wind up thinking that was a win when it's not a win. Not asking for help is not a win. I went a lot of years not asking for help. And so I think that when you get to the point where you are so hard and hollow, there is a way out. And there is another side to things. And you don't sit around waiting for things to go away. What you do is you take the things that hurt, that continue to hurt you every day, and instead of waiting for them to go away, you just have to make space for them, and you take them with you, and you learn how to live with them, and then you just stop apologizing, and you stop blaming yourself.
I need a moment. Is Maurie in the book? He asked me to ask you that before I came on stage. So, is Maurie in the book? What page and how much did you talk about?
Do you want, we spoil it on the radio. We spoiled it on the radio, so I can spoil it here, right? Yeah. Yeah. Maurie's a footnote. Okay, hold on here. Maurie, what's your page? I know you know. What's that? 291.
291.
Hold on.
I wonder if I made a note about it.
Hold on. Just wait. I have to read this. So 291 more? So this is Maurie's part of the book. I simply wrote, footnote. Anyone who's ever written a book has that one friend who's going to skim through the entire thing looking for their own name. Maurie Sherman, this is for you. And that's it right there. I know. You know what? I said friend, and now I'm really regretting it. I'm really regretting that.
It's written in a book. He's your friend.
I know. Well, no, I said friend.
Okay, I thought we'd do a fun little quiz.
Yes, please go.
It's called The Little Things About Roz Weston.
Okay.
All right. Favorite color?
Color pink.
Oh. Favorite song?
Oh, that is really tough.
The first thing that comes to your head.
My God. I will say favorite song is... I like Pink Moon by Nick Drake a lot.
Is that
favorite
song?
A great song.
Okay.
It's a great song. I will stick with that one.
Okay.
Or Hole of the Moon by the Waterboys. I like that song as well. Or Dancing with Myself by Billy Idol. Or Fool in the Rain by Led Zeppelin. Or, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
All right. Favorite food?
Chicken wings.
Ooh. Shoe size?
11 and a half. I have small feet for somebody my height. No judging. No judging. Should I mean 14?
Favorite show?
Favorite show? What's my favorite show? I'm trying to think of what my favorite show would be. I just finished Better Call Saul. It's pretty good. It's fine.
Let's pick that one.
Yeah.
Time you go to bed?
10:30. Yeah.
Time you wake up?
3:42.
Your favorite book?
Mine. It's the only one I've read. I've written more books than I've read.
Yeah, I don't think you've ever written. I mean, yeah, you haven't
Have
never.
you ever finished the whole book?
Yeah, a whole book.
No.
Never.
No.
This is your first one.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I've read books, but like, have I ever read it all the way through without skipping a couple words or like a couple pages or put it down and forgot where I was and picked it back up? No.
I read every word.
I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What concert would you like Roxy to experience with you? And this is a reference to the book.
We already did, and Rox was younger, and she went to bed one night, and I went on StubHub, and I bought Katy Perry tickets, and then I woke her up, and I was like, guess what? Put your ears on. We're going to see Katy Perry. And it's StubHub ticket, and we were front row when we walked in, and I held her the entire night because it was general admission, and so I had that wonderful moment with Rox at her first concert. It was incredible.
The little thing that brings you the most joy.
My kid.
Oh.
And finally.
What's that? Go Caillou. Oh my God.
Oh, Caillou! Right!
Can I not have one night?
How's the song go again?
No, shut up.
Oh,
no. Why would you do that? Don't do that.
And finally.
Yes.
What do you call a fish with no eye?
It's my favorite show. I love that show.
What does it feel to be called an author?
Incredible.
Yeah.
And yeah, it really does. And I have, like, there's no words to describe.
Yeah.
Like, I've never once thought that this would happen. And I'm really glad it did because the response from people has been incredible.
Oh, man, I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I really appreciate you.